A quiet world unfolds as the night settles, and the familiar noise of the day begins to dissolve into a softer silence. In this calm space, where shadows stretch long and gentle across forgotten landscapes, the mysteries of history begin to rise like distant lanterns. There is no urgency here, no demand for answers, only the slow drifting of stories that never found their ending. The mind relaxes as each question blends into the next, forming a horizon of unsolved wonders. In this state between waking curiosity and drifting dreams, we step into the realm of the unknown with a steady, unhurried breath. Throughout the ages, humanity has always walked side by side with uncertainty. Even in the brightest periods of progress, mysteries have hovered just beyond the firelight, reminding us how little we truly understand. This contrast, the illuminated and the concealed, the documented and the whispered, creates a rhythm that hums quietly beneath every story. It invites us closer, not to demand the truth, but to rest near it, to observe its shape in the dark. Tonight, within this long journey of 12 hours, we lean gently into that rhythm, allowing ancient riddles and forgotten legends to wrap around us like a soft blanket. Every culture, every century, has left behind questions that resisted explanation. Ships found without their crew, cities abandoned in silence, lights gliding across the sky long before science could name them. These mysteries are not loud. They do not shout for attention. Instead, they linger like old photographs with missing corners, giving us only fragments to imagine the rest. And there's a calming beauty in that incompleteness. In a world that often pushes us to know everything, these unsolved moments offer rare permission to simply wonder. Tonight, these stories are not meant to stir fear or excitement. They are here to accompany you, to move slowly and steadily like a tide against a quiet shore. As you listen, you may feel your mind drift, perhaps towards sleep, perhaps into reflection. Both are welcome. The mysteries do not mind if you explore them closely or from afar. They exist in a state of gentle ambiguity, the perfect landscape for a wandering mind ready to settle into rest. Imagine for a moment the vast ocean at night, an endless surface of dark velvet, broken only by the faint shimmer of moonlight. Somewhere out there floats a ship that was discovered empty, with meals untouched and sails still set. No signs of struggle, no clues to the fate of the crew. The waves continue to rock the vessel, as if waiting patiently for an answer that never arrives. This is the nature of history's mysteries. Not loud, not urgent, but quietly persistent. They glow faintly in the distance, offering glimpses of stories half told. The details are known, the conclusion is not. And it is in that gap that our imagination finds room to breathe. Then picture an ancient city, once full of life, now reclaimed by vines and roots. Walls stand where homes once echoed with laughter. Stone pathways, worn smooth by countless footsteps, lead nowhere now. Archaeologists uncover artifacts, but not the reasons why a thriving community disappeared. Facts and shadows sit side by side, neither overpowering the other. It is this balance, the light of discovery against the darkness of the unknown, that keeps these mysteries alive. And as we journey deeper into this long night, we carry that balance with us. Some mysteries come wrapped in folklore, others in documented evidence. Some are shaped by time, others by silence. But all share a common essence. They offer questions without demanding answers. They are patient companions for nights when the world grows quiet. The more we look at them, the more we realize that uncertainty can be soothing. Not everything must be solved. Not every thread must be followed to its end. Sometimes, simply knowing that a mystery exists is enough. As this 12-hour exploration begins, let each story arrive like a gentle tide, washing softly against the edges of your awareness. There is no need to stay alert or focused. The stories will unfold at their own pace, drifting seamlessly from one to the next. You may find yourself imagining possible explanations, or you may find yourself sinking deeper into calmness. Either way, you are guided, not by urgency, but by quiet curiosity. The world is filled with puzzles that refuse to fit neatly into their frames. Objects appear in places they shouldn't. Structural feats from ancient civilizations challenge what we believe possible. Messages remain encoded, silent, waiting across centuries. And yet, these enigmas are not obstacles. They are invitations. They remind us that history is not a closed book, but an ever-shifting landscape of possibilities. In this moment, under the gentle hush of night, that landscape feels softer, safer, more inviting. As this journey begins, imagine yourself stepping into a dimly lit archive where dust particles drift like tiny stars. Shelves stretch endlessly in every direction, each holding a fragment of a story, each fragment glowing with its own quiet mystery. You do not need to choose a direction. The path will guide you naturally, leading from the mysteries of the sea to the ruins of forgotten civilizations, from vanished people to celestial lights, from encoded messages to myths that have outlived their cultures. Every step is deliberate, gentle, and unhurried. And so, with a calm breath, we begin this long night of unsolved legends and hidden truths. Not to chase answers, but to rest in the space between knowing and wondering. The journey ahead is soft, expansive, and timeless, perfect for drifting thoughts and peaceful dreams. Let the mysteries open their quiet doors, one by one, as the world outside fades softly into night. Out on the open sea, where the horizon fades seamlessly into the sky, mysteries drift as quietly as the tides that carry them. The ocean has always held a special kind of silence, deep, patient, and ancient, capable of swallowing whole the stories of those who ventured across its vast surface. When we speak of ghost ships, we are not merely describing abandoned vessels. We are touching the quiet edges of human fear, wonder, and imagination. For centuries, sailors have whispered about ships that returned without their crews, drifting calmly as though guided by unseen hands. These tales create a strange contrast: the solid, undeniable reality of ship found intact, and the soft, haunting absence of the people who once lived upon it. One of the most enduring mysteries is that of the Mary Celeste, discovered in 1872 floating without a soul aboard. The sails were partially set, the cargo untouched, and the crew's belongings still neatly stored. Meals had been prepared, but never eaten. No signs of struggle lingered on deck. No message was carved into wood or left behind as a clue. It was as if the crew simply dissolved into the mist, leaving behind only their empty ship to wander across the waters. The facts of the case stand firm, yet the interpretation of those facts drifts like a fog no wind can fully clear. Even today, theories swirl gently around the story: natural disasters, mutiny, piracy, or something stranger still. Yet none feels complete. The ship remains a symbol of how the sea can hold its secrets without ever raising its voice. Then there's the whispered tale of the SS Arong Medan, a ship reportedly found adrift in the mid-20th century under circumstances far more chilling. According to accounts, every crew member was discovered dead, frozen in positions of terror, with no apparent cause. Some say a message was transmitted at the last moment, short, fragmented, and filled with dread, before the ship slipped into stillness. Others claim the entire event is nothing more than maritime folklore, a cautionary tale transformed by retellings. The truth remains uncertain, carried only by fragments of logs, scattered mentions in maritime reports, and the persistent sense that the ocean sometimes holds stories too dark or too strange to fully reveal. Whether the ship existed or not, the legend persists, hovering between historical record and collective imagination. Beyond the famous cases lie countless lesser-known reports of empty vessels discovered across centuries, small fishing boats that drifted beyond their homes, trading ships found with their sails torn but their decks untouched, rafts floating alone with signs of a hurried departure. Some are explained by storms, illness, or navigational mistakes. Others remain shrouded in ambiguity, too incomplete to solve, but too compelling to ignore. Each one carries the same haunting contrast: the presence of a vessel that should hold life, and the quiet void where life should have been. As we drift deeper into these maritime mysteries, the ocean becomes more than a setting. It becomes a character. Its temperament shifts from calm to unpredictable without warning. It has swallowed ancient cities, reshaped coastlines, and rewritten the destinies of entire civilizations. For sailors of the past, the sea was both a pathway and a threat, a bridge to new lands and a boundary between the known world and the unknown. The vastness of the open water could bring fortune or despair, and often brought both in equal measure. Against this immense backdrop, the disappearance of a small crew becomes both insignificant and monumental. Insignificant in scale and monumental in mystery. Consider the psychological effect of days spent on water with no land in sight. The gentle rocking becomes a constant companion. The sky and sea blend until direction loses meaning and every sound echoes through the hull. For crews on long voyages, isolation shapes perception. A strange light on the horizon, a sudden shift in weather, or an inexplicable noise can trigger stories that outlive the voyage itself. Many maritime mysteries likely began as simple misunderstandings or natural phenomena, interpreted through fear, fatigue, or superstition. Yet these interpretations became legends, and legends have a way of drifting far beyond the moment that inspired them. But not all ghost ships are ancient. Even in the modern era, equipped with radar, satellite tracking, and advanced navigation, ships have been found abandoned without clear explanation. A yacht discovered off the coast of Australia in 2007 sat eerily still with the engine running, tables set, and no sign of its crew. The ocean, indifferent to technology, continues to write its own cryptic stories. These modern cases remind us that despite human advancement, the sea remains unpredictable and vast beyond our control. In many ways, ghost ships embody the contrast between the tangible and the unknowable. The vessel remains heavy and physical. The people do not. Something happened, something real, something measurable, but the evidence is scattered too thinly to reconstruct. This space between certainty and speculation is where mystery lives. It is quiet, and in that quietness, the imagination is free to wander. Perhaps that is why these stories are so enduring. They allow listeners to explore possibilities without ever settling on one fixed answer. Even scientific explanations often hold an element of dreamlike ambiguity. Sudden waterspouts, rogue waves, carbon monoxide poisoning, or structural failures might explain some disappearances, yet each explanation feels incomplete when placed beside the elaborate silence these ships leave behind. The ocean rarely provides a full narrative. It offers fragments: a broken mast, an overturned lifeboat, an untouched cargo hold. These fragments act like pieces of a puzzle that refuses to reveal its final image. And in that refusal lies the heart of the ghost ship mystery. As night deepens and the imagination softens, stories of ghost ships become less about fear and more about reflection. They remind us that life does not always leave behind a clear trail. They whisper that some events drift beyond understanding, not to trouble us, but to remind us of the world's expansiveness. The sea represents possibility, endless, shifting, and unconstrained. It mirrors the human mind in the nighttime hours, when thoughts move fluidly and unanswered questions feel less like discomfort and more like companions. In this quiet moment, as we conclude our time with these drifting vessels, we allow their mysteries to settle gently like mist. We do not push for explanations. Instead, we acknowledge the strange beauty of a world that still holds secrets deep beneath its surface. The ocean stories lead us naturally to the next realm of wonder, the mysteries that sit not on water, but among the ruins of forgotten civilizations, places where human hands built wonders and then vanished, leaving behind structures that stand silently in the twilight. Across distant deserts, deep valleys, and forgotten forests lie the remnants of civilizations that once thrived with noise, color, and purpose. Today, these places sit in profound stillness, inhabited only by wind, wildlife, and questions that have never found answers. As we explore the ruins left behind by ancient peoples, we enter a world suspended between what is known and what refuses to be explained. Each fallen stone, each half-buried structure, feels like the echo of a story cut short. And in the quiet of night, these echoes seem softer, more dreamlike, inviting us to drift gently through time. Consider the Nabateans, once skilled traders and master builders who carved entire cities into the red sandstone cliffs of the Middle East. Their most famous creation, Petra, stands as a breathtaking testament to their ingenuity. Yet the deeper mystery is not how they built such marvels, but why their civilization slowly dissolved into silence. Archaeologists have uncovered tools, pottery, and inscriptions, but the bigger picture remains hazy. Trade routes shifted, climates changed, and political pressures grew, yet none of these fully explains the quiet retreat of a people so skilled and influential. Their structures remain, glowing softly under desert moonlight, while their story drifts through history with half its pages missing. Far across the world, in the heart of North America, lies Cahokia, once a thriving pre-Columbian city larger than medieval London. Its massive earthen mounds rise gently from the landscape like sleeping giants. At its peak, the city held tens of thousands of people, farmers, artisans, leaders, and astronomers who built sophisticated calendars aligning with the sun. Yet by the 14th century, Cahokia was abandoned. No record survived to explain why. Disease, resource shortages, social upheaval. Each theory carries some weight, but none fits completely. Walking through the site today, one feels both the grandeur of what once was and the profound stillness of what remains. It is a silence layered with memory, a soft echo of footsteps that faded centuries ago. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, the forgotten Khmer outposts lie deep beneath layers of tangled roots and thick vines. These were once vibrant extensions of a powerful empire, linked by roads, waterways, and belief systems. But as the centuries passed, forests reclaimed stone, and pathways collapsed under moss and soil. Even Angkor, the grand heart of the Khmer civilization, raises countless questions. Its temples, aligned with cosmic patterns, hint at a sophisticated understanding of the heavens. Yet the reasons behind the empire's decline remain clouded. Climatic changes, shifting rivers, political conflict. It is possible that many small factors combined like threads in a tapestry. But still, the final truth remains hidden within the quiet stones. There is a unique, almost hypnotic contrast in these ancient ruins. The visible proof of human brilliance and the invisible reasons for its disappearance. Cities do not rise without intention, nor do they vanish without cause. Yet these causes often dissolve into time, like footprints washed away by rain. What remains are structures that defy simple interpretation. Doorways that lead nowhere now. Corridors filled with dust instead of voices. Plazas where ceremonies once echoed, now occupied by little more than passing breezes. These places speak without words, and their silence is both comforting and haunting. Many civilizations leave behind clues, but these clues rarely complete the puzzle. Pottery shards reveal daily habits, but not final decisions. Foundations show layout, but not motivation. Inscriptions record parts of beliefs, but not the final moments when societies shifted, collapsed, or migrated. This partial knowledge creates a soft, lingering curiosity, as though history is gently inviting us to fill the gaps with imagination. And in the calm of night, imagination feels more fluid, more welcoming, ready to wander through these forgotten places without needing to solve them. Standing among ruins, whether in the desert, on open plains, or within dense jungle, one senses the presence of lives that once moved with purpose. Children played in courtyards, merchants exchanged goods, leaders planned futures. The air must have carried sounds of music, ritual, and conversation. Now, only the wind moves through the stones, brushing against their surfaces like a whispered memory. This contrast between past vibrancy and present stillness is where the mystery takes shape. Some ruins hold architectural secrets that deepen the sense of wonder. Precision-cut stones fitted without mortar. Aqueducts that still channel water centuries later. Calendrical alignments, so exact they mark solstices with perfect beams of light. These accomplishments speak of intelligence and dedication, yet the disappearance of the people who created them remains inexplicable. How can a society capable of such brilliance simply fade? The question lingers, gentle and unresolved. Modern technology, satellites, ground-penetrating radar, digital reconstructions, continues to reveal new details about lost cities. We can now trace roads hidden beneath forest floors, map entire towns swallowed by sand, and identify ancient fields long erased by time. But technology can only illuminate what lies physically beneath the surface. The emotional, spiritual, and political worlds of these vanished peoples remain beyond reach. Their thoughts, fears, hopes, and choices left no measurable trace. This creates a mystery that cannot be solved by tools alone, only contemplated with a sense of quiet humility. There's also a poetic quality in how nature reclaims what humanity abandons. Vines wrap themselves around pillars, roots lift stones, and birds nest in the corners of once sacred chambers. Nature does not erase the past, it embraces it. The slow merging of human creation and natural growth forms a soft, dreamlike landscape that feels both alive and ancient. It reminds us that everything built eventually returns to the earth, a cycle that is stable, gentle, and continuous, even as human stories shift unpredictably. As we wander through the ruins in our imagination, the mystery becomes less about deciphering the exact reasons for abandonment and more about appreciating the quiet presence of what remains. These sites encourage reflection on life, on time, on the impermanence of accomplishments, and the endurance of memory. They ask us to observe without insisting we understand. They invite us to slow our thoughts, to let the unanswered questions linger like distant music. And this is where the soft transition occurs. The ruins lead us toward a new kind of mystery, not of entire civilizations disappearing, but of individuals who stepped away from the world and left behind stories that remain suspended in uncertainty. From vast cities reduced to silence, we now drift toward the intimate, personal mysteries of people whose lives ended not with a civilization's fall, but with a quiet vanishing into the unknown. The shift from grand landscapes to single human narratives feels natural, like the narrowing of a path at twilight, guiding us gently from one chapter of wonder to the next. Throughout history, entire civilizations have vanished, leaving behind stones and echoes. But equally haunting are the stories of individuals who disappeared without a trace. One person, one moment, quietly removed from the world as though the boundary between existence and oblivion briefly opened and closed around them. These vanishings feel more intimate, more personal, as if the mystery is not spread across a landscape, but concentrated into a single human life. A life with thoughts, memories, routines, and dreams suddenly cut from its path. In the quiet of night, these stories take on a soft, reflective quality. They are not tales of fear, but gentle reminders of how fragile the thread of presence can be. One of the most famous figures to vanish was Ambrose Bierce, the American writer known for his dark wit and sharp observations. In 1913, after a long and accomplished life, he journeyed to Mexico during the Revolution and was never seen again. His letters stopped arriving, his trail dissolved somewhere among the dust of battlefields, and no confirmed record of his fate ever surfaced. Some imagine he died heroically alongside revolutionaries. Others suspect he sought solitude and stepped deliberately into obscurity. And then there are theories woven from imagination. Perhaps he embraced the very mysteries he wrote about, becoming one more unsolved riddle drifting through time. The known facts are few, but the possibilities are endless, creating a calm, open space where speculation can wander gently. Even more dreamlike is the medieval tale of the Green Children of Woolpit. According to accounts, two young children appeared near an English village in the 12th century, their skin tinted green, speaking a language no one recognized. They claimed to come from a land of perpetual twilight, a place where the sun never rose high. Over time, their color faded, and they adapted to village life, but the mystery of their origin lingered like a soft question suspended in air. Were they lost travelers from a distant region, victims of an illness, or symbolic figures from a story that blurred into folklore? Facts and fable blend quietly in this tale, each enriching the other. The true answer remains out of reach, resting in a gentle haze that feels more comforting than unsettling. Another unresolved disappearance is that of aviator Frederick Valentik, who vanished over the Bay Strait in 1978 while flying a small aircraft. His final radio transmission reported an unidentified object hovering above him, followed by static. The aircraft was never found, and the incident became a source of endless reflection. Some propose mechanical failure, others suspect disorientation, yet the unusual nature of his final message creates a lingering space where mystery takes root. What did he see? Was it something explainable or something extraordinary? In the quiet hours of the night, the mystery feels less like a puzzle to solve and more like a soft doorway into the unknown, a place where imagination floats without resistance. History also records quieter disappearances, figures who slipped away without dramatic final messages or strange circumstances. People who left home for a simple errand and never returned. Travelers whose last footprints disappeared at the edge of a forest. Scholars whose studies were interrupted by a sudden silence no one could trace. In some cases, records hint at possible explanations: migration, escape, misadventure. But in many others, the trail simply ends, and the person dissolved from the narrative without closure. Like a candle extinguished by a soft wind, leaving behind a warmth that fades too quickly. There is something deeply human about our fascination with these vanishings. They remind us that even in a world governed by patterns, logic, and reason, there remain moments that defy all explanation. These unresolved stories contain a delicate tension between certainty and uncertainty. A person once existed, lived, spoke, dreamed, and then they were gone. The contrast becomes a gentle meditation on the nature of presence itself. What does it mean to be here? What does it mean to leave? When no answers remain, we are invited to sit quietly with the questions, allowing them to settle like falling dust. Throughout cultures, myths and folklore have shaped the way people interpret disappearances. Some saw vanishing individuals as chosen by gods, spirits, or other realms. Others believed they wandered into enchanted forests, sacred mountains, or forbidden borderlands where the rules of the ordinary world no longer apply. In stories passed down through generations, disappearances often carry symbolic meaning: transformation, transition, or the blurring of boundaries between worlds. These tales do not try to solve the mystery. They embrace it, offering interpretations that comfort rather than clarify. And in their softness, these interpretations align perfectly with the gentle mood of night, where imagination flows freely without demanding certainty. Psychology also offers softer explanations for some vanishings. At times, individuals overwhelmed by circumstance choose to step away from their lives, seeking solitude or escape. In other cases, disorientation or emotional crisis might lead someone into unfamiliar terrain from which they cannot return. These explanations bring the mysteries down from mythic heights into the tender realm of human vulnerability. Even so, the absence of final facts leaves space for contemplation. The stories remain incomplete, but deeply resonant. What makes these individual disappearances so compelling is not the drama, but the silence that follows them. A letter left unfinished, a home left undisturbed, a path that leads nowhere. These traces feel like small windows in a lives lived quietly until the moment they slipped into uncertainty. That uncertainty becomes almost poetic when viewed from a distance, something soft, expansive, and timeless. As we drift through these stories, we begin to recognize that mystery is not always sharp or frightening. Sometimes it is gentle, like a slow-fading memory or a dream that dissolves upon waking. These disappearances offer a reminder that life is filled with transitions, some visible, some hidden. Not every disappearance is a tragedy. Some are simply puzzles that refuse to close, leaving behind a strange kind of beauty. In the soft darkness of night, as the world grows quiet, these tales settle like mist across the mind. They encourage a slower breath, a quieter curiosity, a peaceful surrender to the unknown. And as we conclude this chapter of human vanishings, the path ahead opens to something both familiar and mythic, stories of places that blur the line between our world and others. Just as individuals vanish into mystery, entire cultures once believed in thresholds where reality thins, where travelers slip through and return changed, or never return at all. From personal disappearances, we now drift gently toward the legends of hidden passageways whispered across centuries, guiding us deeper into the realm of ancient myths and soft uncertainties. As we drift from the mysteries of vanished individuals, our path softens and widens into the landscapes shaped not by history alone, but by myth. For thousands of years, people across the world have whispered about passageways, thin, hidden, and unmarked, that open briefly between our world and another. These stories do not belong entirely to fact, nor entirely to imagination. They sit gently between the two, like early morning fog that blurs the line between land and sky. In quiet hours, these tales feel less like superstition and more like reflections of something deeply human. The need to believe that the unknown is larger, softer, and more mysterious than what we can see. In the ancient hills of Ireland, grassy mounds curve smoothly beneath drifting clouds. To many generations, these were not simply burial sites or natural formations, but entrances to the realm of the Ow's Sea, the fairy folk who lived parallel to humanity. Legends told of travelers who wandered too close to these mounds and slipped inside, unable to return until years had passed in the outside world. Others returned changed, carrying memories they could barely explain. These stories were not meant to frighten. They were gentle reminders that some places should be approached with respect, for they hold histories and energies beyond human understanding. Even now, the mounds inspire a kind of reverence, as though they are the resting breaths of the land itself. Far across the world, Japanese folklore speaks of forests so dense and ancient that they seem to hum with unseen presence. Travelers once told of stepping into these woods at dusk and finding themselves disoriented, hearing distant laughter or footsteps that belonged to no one. Some said these were the paths of the yokai, the spirits and creatures that inhabited the twilight regions between the human world and the supernatural. Certain forests were believed to contain hidden doors, moments of crossing rather than structures, where a person might drift inadvertently into another realm. In stories passed quietly between generations, these crossings were rarely violent or frightening. Instead, they were strange, dreamlike interruptions in reality, where time, memory, and direction folded like soft fabric. In the frozen expanse of Siberia, legends speak of portals that lead to the underworld, not a place of punishment, but a parallel world inhabited by ancestors and spirits. These entrances were said to appear as caves hidden beneath snow, or as hollow spaces beneath the earth where shamans could travel during trance rituals. The people of the region did not imagine these worlds as entirely separate from the living. Rather, they believed that the boundary between them was delicate, like a thin curtain moved by unpredictable winds. These tales suggest that the world is layered, and that most of the time we simply see the uppermost surface. Beneath it, other layers breathe in quiet stillness. Though these myths come from distant cultures, they share a soothing, mysterious theme: the idea that reality is not entirely solid. There are seams, folds, and gentle openings where the ordinary world softens, allowing something else to shimmer through. These stories are not loud or dramatic. They drift like whispers, carried through time with the softness of lullabies. They do not warn of danger. Instead, they suggest connection, transformation, and the unspoken hope that there may be more to existence than everyday life reveals. What makes these legends so enduring is not the belief that literal doorways exist, but the symbolic power they carry. They represent transitions, the liminal spaces of human experience where one chapter ends and another begins. The moment between waking and dreaming. The silence after a final breath. The edge of a forest where sunlight dims into dusk. These are the thresholds we recognize instinctively, even if we do not speak of them. Myths simply give these moments a form, a shape we can imagine and explore. As we gently move through these stories, they prepare us for the mysteries above us, waiting quietly in the night sky. Just as people have long imagined doorways hidden in hills, forests, and caves, they have also looked upward and sensed another kind of threshold, one written in starlight and silence. From mythical portals of the earth, our path now rises toward the unexplained lights that have drifted across human sight lines for centuries, guiding us from the intimate mysteries of land to the vast wonders of the skies. High above the quiet landscapes of Earth, the night sky stretches out like an endless canvas brushed with stars, each one shimmering softly in the dark. For as long as humanity has existed, we have lifted our eyes toward that vast expanse and wondered about the lights that move where no human hand can reach. Some glide silently, some flash brightly for a moment and then fade, and others linger in patterns that do not belong to any known celestial object. These lights have inspired awe, confusion, and curiosity across countless generations. Yet in the gentle rhythm of night, they offer something else too, a sense of peaceful mystery, a reminder that not everything above us can be quickly named or easily explained. Long before telescopes traced the heavens with precision, ancient cultures recorded strange aerial phenomena in their own poetic ways. A Babylonian clay tablet describes a star that moved against the sky in defiance of all other stars. Roman soldiers wrote of fiery shields hovering silently above battlefields. Medieval texts mention glowing orbs drifting across the sky during solar eclipses, shimmering like celestial lanterns. Each account blends the factual and the mystical, shaped as much by observation as by interpretation. What exactly did these ancient witnesses see? Meteors, comets, atmospheric illusions, or something not yet understood? The questions drift softly through history, inviting contemplation rather than urgency. As centuries passed, humanity's tools for watching the sky improved, yet the mysteries did not fade. In 1561, residents of Nuremberg reported an extraordinary sight: shapes like spheres, cylinders, and crosses filling the morning sky, as if participating in a distant, silent struggle. The descriptions were so vivid that artists immortalized the scene in woodcuts. Some interpret it now as a rare atmospheric event, while others see it as something more enigmatic. What remains constant is the awe it must have inspired, the feeling of witnessing something far beyond daily life, something that belongs to the deep silence of the cosmos. In the 20th century, as aircraft and satellites became part of the modern world, reports of unusual lights in the sky only increased. Pilots described glowing objects keeping steady pace with their planes. Navy ships tracked unidentified blurs on radar, moving with speeds and patterns that defied known technology. Civilians recorded mysterious lights darting, hovering, or dancing across the night. Some events were later explained, weather balloons, reflections, celestial bodies, but many others refuse clarity. Instead of solving the mysteries, advances in observation revealed more of them, increasing the contrast between what we know and what lies just beyond our understanding. One of the most intriguing aspects of these sightings is their quietness. Even when recorded by trained observers, they often describe something peaceful, lights drifting, hovering, or gliding without sound or disruption. These phenomena feel almost dreamlike, as if the sky itself decided to paint a temporary pattern for anyone watching closely enough. In the calm of night, these stories become less about speculation and more about the gentle wonder of witnessing something that bends the rules we expect the world to follow. Many reports come from rural areas, where skies are darker and stars appear more vivid. A farmer spotting a glowing orb that moves against the wind. A group of campers watching a light that pulses softly before vanishing. A fisherman observing a hovering glow just above the horizon. These experiences, small and personal, are stitched together across decades, forming a tapestry of quiet wonder. The lights rarely show intention. They rarely behave in ways that suggest threat or contact. They simply appear and disappear, leaving behind the soothing uncertainty that something more exists in the sky than we can fully map or measure. Scientists have offered a variety of explanations for unusual aerial lights. Ball lightning, atmospheric plasma, reflections from satellites, temperature inversions. Each theory applies to some cases, but none applies to all. The diversity of sightings creates a space where imagination and science overlap. Some researchers suggest that human perception, especially at night, may misinterpret distant or fast-moving objects. Others argue that certain events represent atmospheric phenomena not yet fully understood. And then there are the open-minded hypotheses. Perhaps these lights are natural events that occur rarely, or signals of unknown technologies, or simply cosmic mysteries we have not yet learned to interpret. What is striking is how calm these mysteries feel when explored in a gentle, unhurried way. There is no need to chase conclusions. The purpose is not to solve, but to observe. When imagining these lights drifting silently across the sky, one feels a sense of spaciousness, a reminder of how vast the universe truly is. Our world is large, yet is only a single point in a much larger cosmic ocean. These unexplained lights serve as delicate reminders of that immensity. In recent decades, governments and scientific organizations have released studies examining unidentified aerial phenomena with renewed seriousness. Instead of dismissing sightings, they catalog them, analyze them, and consider them worthy of continued investigation. This shift does not diminish the mystery, it deepens it. Even when approached with rigorous methodology, many events remain unresolved. Their patterns do not fit neatly into known categories. Their behaviors follow logic unfamiliar to us, and their appearances, often brief, unpredictable, and silent, leave behind more questions than answers. But perhaps this is what makes them so captivating. They exist in that rare space where science meets wonder, where the known world touches the unknown without fear or urgency. For nighttime listeners, these stories act like drifting clouds, soft, slow, and open-ended. They allow the mind to rest while still feeling connected to the larger universe, gently reminding us that mystery is not the enemy of understanding, but its quiet companion. As we continue through this contemplative journey, the lights in the sky guide us toward a different category of mystery, one not based on fleeting sightings, but on the physical objects our ancestors left behind. Objects that should not exist, objects made with materials or precision centuries ahead of their time. The same contrast that applies to the sky applies to the earth. Evidence we can touch paired with questions we cannot answer. From the soft glow of unexplained lights, we drift now toward relics that defy their own historical context, inviting us deeper into the poetic uncertainty of the unseen. Across the quiet pages of history, certain artifacts stand apart from the rest. objects that refuse to fit neatly within the timelines and technologies we assign to ancient civilizations. These relics, discovered in caves, shipwrecks, and long-buried ruins, carry with them a subtle sense of contradiction. They are real, physical, and measurable, yet they behave as though they belong to a different era entirely. When viewed through the gentle lens of nighttime reflection, these objects feel like soft invitations to wonder, asking not to be solved, but simply considered with an open mind. Among the most famous of these enigmatic creations is the Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in the early 20th century. At first glance, it appears to be a corroded mass of gears and fragments. But detailed analysis revealed something astonishing. This device, built more than 2,000 years ago, contained a level of mechanical precision not seen again until the intricate clockworks of the Renaissance. Scholars now believe it functioned as an ancient analog computer, capable of predicting planetary movements, eclipses, and celestial cycles with remarkable accuracy. The existence of such a device challenges our assumptions about technological progress. How could a tool of such sophistication appear in a period when simple metalworking was still developing? And if this mechanism survived, how many others were lost to time, decayed in shipwrecks, or buried beneath forgotten foundations? The questions surrounding the Antikythera mechanism widen gently, not insistently. They lead the mind toward possibilities rather than conclusions. Perhaps ancient knowledge was more advanced than we realize. Perhaps innovations once flourished in pockets and were later forgotten. Or perhaps the world is filled with fragments of forgotten brilliance waiting to be rediscovered. The precise truth remains quiet, resting like dust on gears that have not turned for millennia. Another category of mysterious relics includes ancient metallurgy that exceeds known capabilities of the time. For example, certain pre-Columbian cultures forged alloys that, by modern analysis, required temperatures and methods their societies were not believed to possess. Tools embedded with rare elements, ornaments with unusual properties, and artifacts displaying metallurgical purity that seems out of place, all challenge our assumptions about what ancient people could achieve. These discoveries do not rewrite history, but they deepen it, adding layers of complexity that feel almost poetic. The hands that shaped these metals belonged to people who lived ordinary lives, yet the objects they left behind defy ordinary explanation. Out-of-place artifacts are not limited to technology alone. Maps from earlier centuries depict regions with surprising accuracy, coastlines precisely drawn long before the areas were officially explored. One of the most curious examples is the Pyrie Reis map, created in 1513 using sources far older than itself. This map outlines parts of South America, Africa, and even Antarctica with striking precision, at a time when global exploration was still in its infancy. Some scholars believe the map reflects ancient knowledge passed down through forgotten navigators. Others suggest it is a coincidence of artistic interpretation. But the more one examines it, the more intriguing the question becomes: who charted these lands before recorded history began to keep its careful order? When viewed from a calm perspective, these artifacts are less about challenging history and more about expanding it. They encourage us to imagine cultures that experimented, innovated, and understood their world in ways we have not yet fully traced. Human curiosity is not a modern invention. Creativity does not belong to any single era. The idea that ancient peoples may have reached heights of knowledge that later vanished is not frightening. It is humbling. It reminds us that progress is not a straight line, but a gentle wave, rising and falling across generations. Some relics appear mysterious not because of their construction, but because of their purpose. Stone spheres of enormous size scattered across Costa Rica, carved with near-perfect symmetry. They rest silently in forests, fields, and riverbeds, their original meaning lost. Were they markers, symbols of status, elements of a larger design? No explanation satisfies the imagination completely. Instead, The spheres sit like quiet guardians of a forgotten story. Their presence felt more than understood. Likewise, the Baghdad Battery, three small objects discovered in a rock and believed by some to resemble ancient electrical devices, sparks endless speculation. Were they used for electroplating, for ritual, or merely coincidence of design? The true intention behind them remains unknown, allowing each theory to linger softly without dominating the narrative. These objects, small and unassuming, echo the larger theme that history often holds onto its secrets with gentle persistence. What makes these relics so entrancing is the contrast they embody: undeniable, physical reality paired with unanswered questions. We can hold these objects, measure them, and analyze them, yet we cannot fully grasp the minds that made them or the worldviews that shaped their creation. This contrast creates a soothing kind of curiosity, one that invites imagination rather than demanding resolution. In many cases, the mysteries surrounding these artifacts arise from missing context rather than impossible design. Entire libraries of ancient knowledge have been lost to fire, war, and time. It is likely that civilizations developed sophisticated tools or methods that later generations did not preserve or understand. But the absence of this context transforms simple artifacts into gentle puzzles. Puzzles that do not insist on answers, but invite quiet contemplation. Nature, too, plays a role in deepening the mystery. Objects buried for millennia often emerge incomplete, damaged, or separated from their original surroundings. A single fragment of a machine may survive, while its companion pieces have long since decayed. A carved symbol may remain, while its meaning has faded from collective memory. These partial remnants invite interpretations that drift between science and imagination, offering endless possibilities. As we wander through these stories, the artifacts become more than mere objects. They become symbols of the human desire to create, to innovate, and to leave behind something that carries a spark of wonder. Even when we cannot decipher their full purpose, we feel the presence of the minds that shaped them, their curiosity, their skill, their connection to a world both familiar and vastly different from our own. In this sense, the relics are bridges, linking distant ages with the present moment through the quiet language of mystery. And as our thoughts settle into this realm of ancient craftsmanship and lost knowledge, a new path opens ahead, one not defined by objects, but by the spaces built to house belief and ritual. Silent temples, sacred chambers, and sanctuaries carved with intention, yet clouded by uncertainty, await us. From the relics that shouldn't exist, we drift now toward the places built for gods whose voices have long since faded into silence, leading us deeper into the gentle twilight of the unknown. Across quiet valleys and windswept plains, ancient temples sit in gentle stillness, carrying the weight of beliefs that have long slipped from human memory. These places once echoed with rituals, songs, and prayers, yet now they rest in near-perfect silence, touched only by drifting shadows and the soft movements of nature. When walking among such structures, some carved into mountainsides, others shaped from enormous stones, it becomes clear that they were built with profound intention. But much of that intention remains hidden, softened by time until only traces linger. In the peaceful atmosphere of night, these ruins transform into gateways of imagination, leading us toward questions not meant to be answered quickly or conclusively. At sites like Göbekli Tepe, one of the oldest known temples in the world, enormous stone pillars rise from the earth in circles that defy their age. Carved with images of animals and symbols, these pillars stand as reminders of a world where ritual shaped life in ways we barely comprehend. The sophistication of the site challenges assumptions about early human societies. Before the advent of agriculture, before cities, before writing, people gathered here for reasons we can only guess. Was it a place of worship, a center of community, a gathering spot for celestial observation? The stones hold their silence. They offer their presence, not their explanations. In the Andean highlands, another mysterious site, Chavinda Huantar, rests between mountains and rivers. Its labyrinth-like passages, echo chambers, and underground tunnels were designed with remarkable acoustic properties. A single conch shell trumpet blown in the darkness could send vibrations through the entire complex, creating sounds that felt otherworldly. To the people who built it, these sounds may have represented divine voices or portals to spiritual realms. Yet today, standing within those shadowed corridors, one feels only a soft hum, an echo of something powerful that once shaped the hearts and minds of those who gathered there. The intention is felt, but the meaning remains elusive, drifting like a forgotten melody. The Hypogeum of Malta offers an even deeper mystery, an underground complex carved entirely from limestone, consisting of chambers and passageways arranged with astonishing precision. Some rooms amplify sound, while others seem to muffle it completely, creating an atmosphere that feels both intimate and immense. Archaeologists believe it served as a ritual or burial site, but its exact purpose is still unclear. Imagine standing in one of those chambers, surrounded by stone walls shaped thousands of years ago by hands now lost to time. The air feels thick with memory. Each curve, each carved niche, whispers of ceremonies we cannot reconstruct, of beliefs we cannot fully translate. Yet the silence is comforting, like a gentle exhale from the earth itself. Across cultures, these ancient temples share a common essence. They were built for gods or spirits whose identities have faded. The rituals performed within them are known only in fragments. Offerings were left behind, symbols carved into stone, alignments set to mark solstices or equinoxes. But without the living traditions that once animated these structures, we are left only with the physical traces, the bones of something once alive with meaning. This creates a soft space where imagination and archaeology meet, not in conflict but in harmony. We can study these sites, measure them, map them, yet still feel the presence of something intangible. What makes these temples so captivating is the sense of intention embedded in every stone. They were not casual constructions. They were deliberate, thoughtful, and shaped by worldviews we can no longer fully access. Some may have been built to honor deities, others to connect with ancestors, and still others to serve as symbolic models of the cosmos. The details invite reflection rather than certainty. In this way, these sacred spaces mirror the inner landscapes of human belief, complex, layered, and often beyond full articulation. Nature plays a gentle role in deepening their mystery. Roots wrap around columns, vines trace ancient carvings, and sunlight filters into chambers where torches once flickered. The merging of the natural and the constructed creates a dreamlike balance, as if the earth and humanity collaborated to build something timeless. Standing within these spaces, one feels suspended between two worlds, the tangible world of stone and the intangible world of meaning. As we drift through these temples in our imagination, they guide us softly toward a new kind of mystery, not one etched into walls or carved into pillars, but one encoded in messages humans left behind without clear interpretation. From silent sacred places we now move toward the whispers of unsolved communications, where written symbols and radio signals offer clues yet hold tightly to their secrets. The journey continues, shifting gently from spiritual chambers into the quiet enigma of messages sent through time, waiting patiently for understanding that may never fully arrive. Across the centuries, humanity has always tried to communicate, through symbols, through sounds, through letters etched in a stone, or transmitted across invisible waves. Yet some messages were sent without ever reaching their intended recipients. Some remain trapped in undeciphered scripts, coded notes, cryptic manuscripts, or radio transmissions that flickered briefly into existence and then faded forever. These messages linger like soft echoes across time, inviting us to lean closer, to listen, to imagine what they might have meant. As night deepens, the unsolved nature of these communications feels less frustrating and more intriguing, like a distant melody whose tune we almost recognize but can never fully recall. One of the most famous of these mysterious writings is the Voynich manuscript, a book filled with strange illustrations, unknown plants, astronomical diagrams, and text written in an unbreakable script. For more than a century, linguists, cryptographers, and scholars have attempted to decode its flowing characters, yet no one has succeeded. The manuscript resists interpretation at every level. Its pages appear meaningful, structured, and intentional, yet the meaning itself remains hidden. Some believe it is a medical or herbal guide from forgotten culture. Others suspect it is a cipher crafted by an unknown author. And some think it may be a work of imagination or art, a symbolic narrative unrelated to any real language. But the most soothing interpretation is that it simply exists as a quiet relic of human creativity, its purpose not to answer questions, but to inspire gentle wonder. Another enigmatic message can be found in the letters associated with the Somerton Man, discovered in Australia in 1948. The man himself remains unidentified, and among his belongings was a torn page from a book containing a short code of letters arranged in no recognizable pattern. Countless attempts to decipher the message have produced theories, but no consensus. Was it a personal note? A form of shorthand? A coded message related to espionage? The truth, like the identity of the man, remains unknown. His cryptic letters lie in a small space between clarity and oblivion, offering just enough structure to suggest meaning, but not enough to reveal it. In the quiet hours of night, this kind of mystery becomes less about solving a puzzle and more about contemplating the delicate boundary between expression and silence. From written codes, we move to mysteries carried across vast distances through radio waves. In the early 20th century, the world was filled with the excitement of new communication technologies. People began receiving signals from distant transmitters, and some of these signals were unlike anything expected. Strange rhythmic pulses, patterns that repeated with irregular consistency, and voices that seemed too far away to trace. One such case is the mysterious WOW signal detected in 1977, a strong, narrowband radio signal that appeared once and never again. Astronomers could not explain its origin. It did not match natural cosmic emissions, nor did it resemble typical interference from Earth. It flickered into existence for a brief moment, then vanished completely, leaving behind only a question mark written in the form of radio data. Some have speculated it may have been a sign of extraterrestrial communication, while others believe it was an unnoticed natural phenomenon. Regardless of explanation, its solitary appearance makes it feel like a whisper that drifted too far, too fast to fully catch. Other messages come from much closer to home. The Taos hum, for example, is a low-frequency sound reported by residents in a small region of New Mexico. Though not a message in the traditional sense, its steady hum behaves like one, persistent, deliberate, and inexplicable. Only certain people hear it, and even they cannot locate its source. Studies have searched for industrial explanations or geological causes, yet none have been confirmed. The hum remains a kind of auditory riddle, a soft vibration woven into the town's atmosphere. Whether it is natural, mechanical, or purely perceptual, it exists as a reminder that the world communicates in ways we do not always understand. Even medieval Europe produced its share of puzzling messages. Monks and scribes sometimes recorded unusual events or coded observations in their manuscripts, leaving behind inscriptions that still defy interpretation today. A single line of text written in a script not used anywhere else. A drawing that resembles celestial phenomena centuries ahead of its time. A symbol carved into stone whose purpose remains unclear. These fragments are like faint footprints of minds trying to express something too complex, too sacred, or too personal for ordinary language. What connects all these mysterious communications is the feeling they evoke, a gentle tug on the imagination, a reminder that meaning does not always arrive fully formed. Some messages were intentionally encrypted, their authors wanting to hide information from unwanted eyes. Others may have been attempts at communication that were never completed or never meant for common understanding. Still others might be playful, artistic expressions whose deeper purpose was simply to exist beyond interpretation. In the modern world, where so much information is instantly accessible and quickly explained, these unsolved messages feel almost comforting. They remind us that not everything needs to be decoded, that some stories are meant to drift beyond comprehension. The act of reading, listening, or analyzing these fragments becomes meditative, a slow, reflective process rather than a search for final answers. It mirrors the experience of watching clouds move across the sky or listening to distant waves, soothing, rhythmic, and open to endless interpretation. As we allow these mysterious messages to settle in our minds, they blend with the theme that is woven gently through this entire journey: the balance between what is known and what remains hidden. These codes, signals, and scripts offer glimpses into moments when humans tried to reach beyond their immediate world, to send thoughts outward across time or space. Some succeeded for a moment, others faded before they were understood. Yet all remain as reminders of how deeply we long to communicate, even when the meaning slips beyond the grasp of language. From these quiet enigmas of written and spoken messages, our path now leads towards stories shaped not by individuals or signals, but by collective memory, folklore and legends that slowly form from repeated moments, unexplained sightings, and echoes passed down through generations. The transition from coded messages to shared myths is gentle and natural, like shifting from a whisper to a soft chorus. As we move forward, the mysteries become less about isolated expressions and more about the shared stories that entire communities built from the lingering echoes of the unknown. Across every landscape on Earth, quiet valleys, mist-covered mountains, remote forests, and sleepy villages, there are stories that have drifted down through generations, surviving not through written records, but through memory, repetition, and gentle retelling. These legends are built from lingering echoes of unexplained events, sightings, or sensations that people experienced long before the world knew how to categorize such mysteries. Over time, these moments transformed into tales shared around fires, whispered before sleep, or folded softly into cultural belief. They are neither pure fact nor pure fiction. They exist in the space between, where imagination and memory intertwine. In the calm of night, these legends feel like soft threads woven into the larger tapestry of human experience, comforting rather than unsettling, familiar rather than frightening. Among these stories are the timeless accounts of ghostly armies seen marching across hillsides long after real soldiers had faded into history. In some villages across Europe, people spoke of hearing the distant rumble of hooves and clashing of metal on nights when no army could possibly be present. Witnesses described spectral formations moving with uncanny coordination, vanishing as quietly as they appeared. To early communities, these visions were believed to be echoes of past battles, imprinted into the land itself, replaying like faint memories the earth could not forget. Modern explanations suggest atmospheric reflections or auditory illusions. Yet the legend persists, not because of proof, but because it resonates with the human desire to believe that memories, whether of people or places, leave traces long after events have passed. In other corners of the world, phantom lights have long been reported drifting over marshes, deserts, or forested regions. These lights move in erratic ways, hovering, bobbing, or gliding just above the ground. In some traditions, they are called will-o'-the-wisps, playful spirits that lure travelers away from their paths. In others, they are seen as guiding lanterns, gentle messengers from ancestors or protectors watching from beyond the veil. Scientific theories point to swamp gases or distant headlights refracted through layers of air. Yet the emotional quality of the sightings transcends explanation. For those who have glimpsed them, the lights feel alive, intentional, and strangely peaceful. They are reminders that even darkness holds its own quiet illuminations. Local legends often grow from shared experiences that defy simple logic. In the Appalachian Mountains, tales of mysterious figures appearing on lonely roads have been passed down for generations. Travelers speak of meeting someone who seems ordinary at first, perhaps a woman in old-fashioned clothing or a man leaning on a walking stick, only to realize, moments later, that the figure has vanished without a sound. In these regions, such encounters are not told as frightening ghost stories, but as gentle, solemn reminders that the past and present sometimes overlap in ways we cannot entirely explain. These stories carry a sense of reverence, as if acknowledging that certain places hold memories too deep for time to fully erase. Folklore also whispers about sounds that emerge unexpectedly from the natural world. Melancholic melodies carried by wind, distant drums echoing across plains, or murmuring voices in forests where no people walk. Indigenous communities in many lands believe these sounds were the earth expressing itself, sharing wisdom or signaling change. Even today, hikers and travelers encounter moments where sound behaves in ways that feel almost sentient. A single note hanging impossibly long in the air, a rhythm that seems to pulse softly under the surface of the land. Scientists attribute such phenomena to acoustic reflections, temperature shifts, or wildlife patterns. Yet the allure of these experiences persists, not because they demand explanation, but because they offer a moment of connection between humans and the natural world, wrapped in gentle mystery. In countless cultures, legends also formed around places believed to hold unusual energy. Silent hills where compasses spin unpredictably, lakes where reflections appear slightly altered, or stones that remain warm even on the coldest nights. People visiting these places often felt a subtle shift, a sense that the air was charged with memory or meaning. Over time, these impressions solidified into folklore. Some sites became known as places where wishes could be made, others as thresholds between worlds. Whether or not the stories were rooted in measurable phenomena, they shaped how communities understood the landscapes around them. These tales turned ordinary locations into sacred spaces, infused with quiet significance. What makes these legends particularly soothing is their fluidity. They do not insist on a single interpretation. They evolve with each telling, adapting to new generations while preserving their core essence. They allow room for imagination, inviting each listener to picture their own version of the mysterious army, the drifting light, the vanishing traveler, or the singing forest. Unlike rigid historical accounts, folklore breathes. It expands and contracts with emotion and memory, reflecting the collective heart of a community rather than the factual precision of documents. There is also a gentle unity in how these stories appear across different cultures and continents. Though shaped by specific environments, the themes share a remarkable consistency. Lights that guide or mislead, spirits that linger in familiar places, sounds that appear without visible source, figures that bridge past and present. This suggests something universal in human experience, an instinctive way of interpreting the unknown, translating fear, wonder, grief, and hope into narratives that can be shared and understood. These similarities reassure us that mystery is not a flaw in understanding, but a natural part of being human. In a world that often prioritizes certainty, these legends offer a space where uncertainty feels peaceful. They invite listeners to let go of strict boundaries and allow stories to drift where they will. The unknown is not an obstacle here. It is the landscape itself. And in the calm stillness of night, this landscape feels especially welcoming. As the mind softens and thoughts grow slower, folklore becomes a kind of lullaby, gentle patterns of words that echo the rhythms of the past. As we linger with these legends, they guide us naturally toward the quieter, lesser-known mysteries that history almost forgot, not the grand tales celebrated in books, but the small, overlooked puzzles that once brushed lightly against the edges of human life. From the shared myths of communities, we now drift into stories so subtle they were nearly lost entirely, forgotten in archives or remembered only by a few. The path ahead narrows into a soft, intimate exploration of mysteries that whisper rather than shout, carrying us gently into the next chapter of our long night's journey. Not all mysteries arrive with the weight of legends or the spectacle of ancient wonders. Some exist quietly, hidden within dusty archives, forgotten journals, and small-town memories that never found their way into mainstream history. These are the cases that history almost lets slip away, stories too subtle to become famous, yet too intriguing to disappear entirely. They linger at the edges of the record, like faint footprints on a well-traveled path, waiting for someone to pause long enough to notice them. In the stillness of night, these quieter puzzles reveal their charm, offering a gentler kind of mystery that unfolds slowly and softly, without urgency or drama. Among these overlooked stories are the accounts of explorers whose journeys ended not in triumph, but in silence. These were individuals who ventured into deserts, forests, or mountains accompanied only by minimal supplies and the belief that their discoveries would help shape the world's understanding. Some vanished without fanfare, leaving behind journals filled with careful notes that stop abruptly mid-sentence. Perhaps they encountered unexpected weather, or illness, or simply wandered too far off the path. Yet the absence of final details transforms their stories into soft enigmas. We know where they intended to go, but not what truly became of them. Their unfinished entries feel like whispers carried across time, delicate reminders of how easily a life can drift into the unknown. Then there are the forgotten scientific experiments, projects once considered important, now remembered only through a few scattered pages. Some experiments documented strange atmospheric readings, unusual magnetic shifts, or unexpected plant behaviors. These results, though intriguing, were often set aside as anomalies rather than investigated further. In retrospect, such findings feel like tiny doors to larger mysteries that history never opened. It is soothing to imagine these scientists, working late by lamplight, recording observations they did not yet understand. Their quiet curiosity still lingers, preserved in margins and handwritten notes that never reached the world they hoped to inform. Across small villages and rural towns, local legends speak of peculiar events that were never widely studied. Children who claimed to see unusual figures near old wells, elders who described lights moving silently across fields, or farmers who found intricate patterns etched into frost or soil. These stories were shared casually, often fading into the background of community life. Yet the consistency of these small encounters across generations suggests an undercurrent of mystery woven into everyday existence. These puzzles may not demand attention, but they invite reflection. They remind us that the world has always held tiny anomalies, delicate as falling leaves that slip through the cracks of recorded history. Sometimes, the mysteries come from ordinary people whose actions defy simple explanation. A woman who left her village for a short walk and returned hours later unable to remember where she had been. A craftsman who built intricate objects using techniques no one else in the region understood. A child who spoke of distant places before ever learning about them. These accounts were often dismissed as coincidences or misunderstandings, yet they linger because they carry the faint perfume of something extraordinary. The subtle nature of these tales makes them more enchanting, for they offer just enough detail to spark imagination, but not enough to resolve the enigma entirely. Old archives, when examined closely, reveal many such forgotten stories. Margins filled with brief notes about unusual seasonal changes, sightings of rare animals, or unexplained noises heard during the night. Handwritten letters describing dreams that predicted storms, or diaries mentioning people who appeared at the edge of a village and then were never seen again. These subtle fragments are like puzzle pieces from a much larger picture, one that was never completed and perhaps never meant to be. The mystery lies not in the scale of the events, but in their near disappearance from memory. What makes these cases so soothing is their gentle incompleteness. They invite us to imagine what might have happened, but they do not pressure us to find definitive answers. Each forgotten story is a small window into the everyday unknown, a reminder that mystery is not always dramatic or monumental. Sometimes it is quiet, personal, and almost tender. These soft puzzles allow the mind to drift, exploring what could have been without any need to decide what must have been. As we reflect on these overlooked mysteries, they form a natural bridge to the next realm of wonder. Structures that still stand in stone and earth, built with astonishing skill that challenges the expectations of their era. From forgotten case files and subtle stories almost lost to time, we now move toward physical creations whose very existence whispers of abilities and knowledge far ahead of their age. The transition feels like stepping from a dimly lit archive into the open air, where ancient walls rise beneath the sky, waiting to share their quiet riddles. Across continents and centuries, ancient structures rise from the earth with a quiet authority, their stones shaped by hands long gone, their shapes aligned with purposes we only partly understand. These monuments stand as reminders of civilizations that mastered techniques far beyond what we typically attribute to their time. When visiting these sites, one feels the gentle pressure of questions that have rested for ages. How were such massive stones moved, carved, and lifted into place? Why were certain locations chosen with such precision? What beliefs shaped these grand designs? In the peaceful stillness of night, these mysteries soften into reflections rather than puzzles, inviting us to walk slowly through corridors of stone and wonder at the intentions woven into each block. Some of the most striking examples of ancient architecture appear in places like Peru, where the walls of Sacsayhuaman fit together with an almost impossible precision. Each stone, some weighing many tons, nestles perfectly against its neighbors without mortar, forming walls that have withstood earthquakes and centuries of erosion. Standing before such craftsmanship, one senses a level of skill and knowledge that feels both familiar and extraordinary. The builders understood forces, weight, and geometry in ways that still defy easy explanation. We can measure the stones, analyze the quarries, and study the patterns, yet a complete understanding remains elusive. The result is a gentle tension between what we know and what remains beyond reach. On the other side of the world, in Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza continues to evoke wonder. Its alignment with cardinal directions is astonishingly accurate, its internal passages precisely angled, and its construction involving millions of perfectly shaped blocks remains a subject of debate. Ancient Egyptians clearly possessed advanced organizational and engineering abilities, yet the methods they used remain partially hidden behind time's curtain. The deeper one studies the structure, the more questions arise. Why were specific chambers placed where they are? What symbolic meanings guided the pyramid's shape and orientation? Even today, the monument stands like a quiet riddle carved into the landscape, massive, calm, and content to keep its secrets. In Southeast Asia, Angkor what presents another kind of mastery. This sprawling temple complex was built with astonishing symmetry and detailed stone carvings that remain crisp even after centuries of monsoon rains. What makes Angkor what particularly intriguing is its celestial alignment. Its towers correspond with specific star patterns, and its layout maps cosmic movements with surprising accuracy. The builders clearly possessed not only architectural skill, but profound astronomical knowledge. Yet their reasons for creating such a cosmic model remain soft and uncertain, blending spirituality, mythology, and political symbolism into a single sweeping mystery. Closer to Europe, ancient sites like Stonehenge stand silently in grassy fields, their immense stones arranged in patterns that align with solstices and equinoxes. The precision of these alignments suggests deep astronomical understanding, yet the exact purpose of Stonehenge, ritual site, calendar, burial ground, or something else entirely, remains understated and unresolved. What fascinates researchers and visitors alike is not merely the engineering behind the stones, but the feeling these structures evoke, a sense of connection to ancestors who interpreted the sky with reverence, and whose worldview was deeply intertwined with the cycles of nature. Across the Mediterranean, mysterious megalithic temples in Malta challenge expectations even further. Built thousands of years before the pyramids, these structures feature complex internal layouts, acoustic chambers, and corridors aligned with celestial events. The knowledge required to design and build such temples suggests a level of understanding we often do not associate with such early periods. Yet the motivations behind them remain understated, shrouded in gentle ambiguity. Archaeologists have uncovered altars, carvings, and symbolic stones, but the deeper meaning of the site still drifts beyond firm explanation. One of the most captivating aspects of these ancient structures is their resilience. While modern buildings crumble within decades if left untended, these monuments endure centuries of storms, erosion, and seismic activity. Their survival seems to whisper of forgotten techniques, methods of construction and design that have not fully returned to modern engineering. Scientists can speculate on the materials, leverage, and tools used, but the complete picture still remains fractured. These incomplete details create a space where imagination can wander gently, considering possibilities without needing certainty. There are also architectural puzzles that arise from the placement of these structures. Many ancient sites are aligned along ley lines, straight paths connecting distant landmarks across continents. Whether these alignments were intentional or coincidental remains debated, but the effect is undeniably intriguing. How did ancient builders choose their construction sites? Did they rely on astronomy, geography, or spiritual intuition? The answers feel close, as if resting just beneath the surface, yet they refuse to fully emerge. This delicate balance between knowledge and mystery makes the experience of studying these sites surprisingly soothing. Some structures exhibit engineering choices that seem, even today, unusually advanced. The use of interlocking stones, complex drainage systems, acoustic amplification, and rotational symmetry all suggest a sophisticated understanding of physics and design. Yet the written records that might have explained these methods have often been lost. This loss transforms the accomplishments into quiet enigmas, achievements we can admire, but not fully reconstruct. They remind us that human ingenuity has deep roots, stretching far back into times we often assume were simple or primitive. Walking among such ruins, one can almost feel the presence of their creators, not in a literal sense, but in the enduring clarity of their craftsmanship. Every carved line, every placed stone, carries an echo of intention. These echoes do not demand explanation. They offer connection. They allow us to imagine the people who shaped these structures, people who observed the stars, felt the rhythms of the earth, and built in harmony with forces we still struggle to comprehend. In the gentle quiet of night, these mysteries become even more peaceful. They reveal not only what ancient civilizations achieved, but also how much of their knowledge may have been lost through time. The structures remind us that history is a layered story, with some chapters written in stone and others carried away by wind, water, and forgetfulness. This layered quality invites reflection rather than analysis, encouraging us to appreciate the beauty of what remains rather than lament what is missing. As we step away from these architectural wonders, our journey moves naturally toward a broader perspective. The world is filled with patterns, some intentional, others accidental, that link distant cultures, ancient calendars, and symbolic systems in unexpected ways. From massive stones aligned with the heavens, we now drift gently into an exploration of global patterns and coincidences that hint at deeper connections woven quietly through time. The path ahead opens into the soft, expansive mystery of the great patterns hiding in plain sight. Across the vast landscape of human history, certain patterns appear again and again, quiet, recurring shapes that emerge in architecture, mythology, astronomy, and symbolic traditions scattered across the world. Some of these patterns are clearly intentional, crafted with mathematical precision or spiritual purpose. Others seem to arise accidentally, Yet their presence feels meaningful, as if different cultures sense the same truths without ever meeting. In the soft stillness of night, these patterns begin to glow gently, becoming threads that weave distant ages and distant peoples into a shared tapestry of mystery. They invite us to consider the possibility that beneath the surface of human history lies a quieter, more connected story. One of the most striking patterns appears in the alignment of ancient monuments with celestial events. Across continents, sites built by cultures who never interacted, Stonehenge in England, the pyramids in Egypt, the temples of Angkor, and the mounds of North America, all display careful alignment with solstices, equinoxes, or specific stars. The sun rises through stone gateways. Shadows move across carved markers only on particular days, and entire structures seem to function as enormous sky calendars. These similarities raise gentle questions. Why did so many civilizations look to the sky in the same way? Were these alignments practical tools for agriculture, spiritual rituals, or reflections of a deeper connection to the cosmos? Whatever the answer, the pattern itself feels serene, suggesting a shared human instinct to harmonize earthly life with the movements of the heavens. Mythological parallels offer another realm of mysterious connection. Stories of great floods, sky gods, serpents, underworld journeys, and tree of life symbols appear around the world, in cultures separated by oceans and millennia. These similarities might be rooted in universal human experience or psychological archetypes, yet they create a sense of unity that stretches far beyond recorded contact. It is soothing to imagine that these stories grew from the same emotional soil. Fears, hopes, and dreams that belong to all people regardless of time or place. When seen through this gentle lens, mythology becomes less a collection of separate tales and more a single, multi-voice song echoing softly through history. Even numerical patterns play a surprising role in ancient structures and traditions. Numbers like 3, 7, 9, 12, and 20 appear repeatedly in calendars, rituals, measurements, and sacred geometry. Civilizations often use these numbers in ways that seem symbolic rather than purely practical. Why did so many cultures divide their calendars into similar cycles? Why did they choose geometric ratios that mirror natural harmonies? These patterns do not demand mystical explanations, but they invite contemplation. They remind us that numbers are not only tools, they're expressions of rhythm, balance, and the search for meaning in the natural world. There are also geographic patterns that spark curiosity. Some ancient sites, though widely separated, seem to fall along strikingly straight lines when plotted on modern maps. These alignments, sometimes called ley lines, remain a subject of gentle debate. Were they intentional pathways of travel, spiritual routes, or coincidences arising from the abundance of ancient sites? The truth is difficult to pin down. Yet the visual symmetry of these lines evokes a quiet sense of order, as though the earth itself might hold latent patterns we have only begun to notice. For night listeners, these alignments feel less like puzzles to solve and more like soft whispers of an interconnected world. Cultural patterns also emerge in symbolic traditions. Spirals, lotus flowers, suns, circles, and interlocking shapes appear in art across continents. Some symbols represent life cycles, others the cosmos, others the harmony between opposites. Despite their varied meanings, the recurrence of these shapes suggests a shared instinct to express complexity through visual simplicity. Even without written language, ancient artists communicated ideas through these patterns, creating symbols that still resonate today. The familiarity of these shapes across time and space offers a calm reminder that human creativity follows certain natural currents, flowing gently through generations. Music and sound reveal patterns of their own. The scales and rhythms of early instruments constructed by different civilizations often share mathematical relationships, even when those cultures had no contact. Drums, Flutes and stringed instruments tuned to intervals found in nature create harmonic structures that echo one another across continents. This resonance suggests that human perception gravitated instinctively towards certain tones and vibrations. When imagined in the quiet of night, these musical parallels feel like distant voices harmonizing across time, an inaudible chorus linking all people who once played, sang, or simply listened. Some patterns are even more subtle. Early cities share similar layouts, with central plazas, ceremonial halls, and defensive structures arranged in comparable ways. Agricultural practices developed independently, yet relied on similar cycles and methods. Healing traditions around the world used herbs, chants, and rhythms in parallel forms. These recurring designs hint at a shared human intuition, an understanding of how communities thrive, how rituals soothe, and how stories carry wisdom through generations. As we explore these patterns, it becomes clear that not every similarity is a mystery demanding an explanation. Many arise naturally from shared human needs or the universal rhythms of nature. Yet others feel more enigmatic, lingering at the edge of coincidence and intention. It is in this delicate space, where logic blends gently with wonder, that the greatest beauty of these patterns emerges. They remind us that humanity, despite its vast distances and differences, has always sought connection, understanding, and harmony. And sometimes civilizations found those answers in remarkably similar ways. What makes these patterns so soothing is their openness. They do not insist on one interpretation. Instead, they offer possibilities. They encourage listeners to imagine how ancient people observed the world and responded with creativity, curiosity, and reverence. Each pattern is like a soft thread that, when followed, leads to another, and then another, weaving a broad and calming fabric across time. In this reflective state, it becomes easier to see history not as a sequence of isolated events, but as a gentle flow. Cultures influencing one another indirectly, ideas rising independently, yet harmonizing with distant echoes, and human instincts guiding creation in ways that transcend geography. The patterns that emerge remind us that the world is far more interconnected than it appears in textbooks and maps. As this chapter draws to a close, the journey naturally drifts toward a more philosophical horizon. After exploring patterns carved in stone, written in myth, and whispered through numbers, a final question begins to unfold. Why do these mysteries appear at all? Why do they persist? Is there a deeper reason humans are drawn to the unknown? These questions form a bridge into the next part of our quiet journey, a gentle reflection on the nature of mystery itself, and the quiet theory that binds all these enigmatic pieces into a soft, contemplative whole. As our long journey through mysteries unfolds, a gentle question rises to the surface. Why do these enigmas captivate us so deeply? Why do the unknown lights, forgotten relics, vanished people, and ancient structures settle so softly in our imagination, refusing to leave even after centuries pass? Perhaps the answer does not lie in any single story, but in the quiet thread connecting them all. There seems to be a subtle theory of mystery woven into human existence, not loud or dramatic, but gentle and universal, like a quiet current flowing beneath the everyday world. Every mystery, no matter its form, invites us to pause. It asks us to step briefly out of the predictable rhythm of life and rest in a space where certainty fades. In that space, something shifts inside us. We begin to see possibility rather than conclusion, wonder rather than routine. This shift is not stressful, it is soothing. It reminds us that the world is far larger than our immediate concerns, that beneath all our schedules and responsibilities lies an ancient, expansive quietness. The unknown becomes a resting place rather than a source of fear. It may be that humans are naturally drawn to the soft edges of understanding. We spend our days navigating what is known, work, relationships, tasks, familiar places. But part of us longs gently for the unknown, for something that stretches beyond the visible horizon. Mysteries satisfy that longing without overwhelming it. They offer a sense of openness, the same feeling one gets while staring at the night sky or listening to a distant echo. Nothing needs to be solved. Everything simply is. We are allowed to float among possibilities without choosing one. Mystery also creates connection between past and present, between people and landscapes, between the inner world and the outer. When we hear stories of ancient structures aligned with stars or coded messages left behind without explanation, we feel linked to the people who created them. They, too, looked at the world with curiosity. They, too, felt reverence for silence, for the sky, for the hidden layers of existence. Their mysteries become reflections of our own wonder, crossing centuries to meet us gently in the quiet moments of night. Another part of this quiet theory of mystery lies in balance. The known world gives us structure, but the unknown gives us depth. If everything were understood, life would feel flat, predictable, and closed. If nothing were understood, life would feel chaotic. Mystery sits beautifully in the middle. It steadies us and expands us at the same time. Like twilight balancing day and night, mystery balances logic and imagination, giving space for both without allowing either to dominate. There is also comfort in the idea that not everything must be resolved. Much of modern life pushes toward conclusions, clear answers, decisive outcomes. Yet mysteries remind us that unfinished stories can still be meaningful. Their incompleteness carries a softness that mirrors the human experience. We too are unfinished works, growing, changing, and searching. The mysteries we encounter externally reflect the mysteries within ourselves. And in accepting them, we learn to accept our own unanswered questions. Perhaps this is why mysteries lend themselves so well to quiet hours. At night, when the world slows and distractions fade, the mind becomes more receptive to gentle exploration. Thoughts loosen from their daytime patterns, drifting with ease. Mystery becomes a companion in those hours, not demanding attention, but offering peaceful company. Each unanswered question becomes a soft lantern, lighting the inner landscape just enough to wander through without waking fully. As we move through these reflections, it becomes clear that the mysteries we have explored, ghost ships, vanished civilizations, celestial lights, ancient technologies, coded messages, and mythic echoes, are all part of a larger story. They are expressions of the same human desire to reach beyond certainty, to touch the edge of the infinite, to feel connected to something timeless and vast. The details of each mystery matter less than the feeling they evoke, a sense of spaciousness, wonder, and quiet awe. In this gentle state of understanding, the mysteries no longer appear isolated. They begin to form a soft pattern of their own, a reminder that the unknown is not a void, but a presence, subtle, expansive, and endlessly patient. And as we drift toward the conclusion of our journey, this presence guides us naturally into the final reflection. For now, we stand on the threshold between all the enigmas we have explored and the soft closing moments where we learn to rest beside the unanswered, allowing mystery to become not a question, but a companion. As the long night of mysteries gently draws to a close, a sense of calm begins to settle over every unanswered question we have encountered. The stories of vanished people, silent civilizations, strange lights, forgotten relics, and ancient patterns now drift together like soft clouds merging in a quiet sky. None of them demanded resolution. None insisted on being solved. Instead, they guided us toward a peaceful awareness that mysteries can be comforting companions rather than puzzles pressing for answers. In this final stretch of our journey, the unknown feels less like an empty space and more like a gentle horizon, vast, open, and accepting. There's a quiet beauty in resting beside the unanswered. It reminds us that life does not need to be fully understood to be meaningful. Just as the ocean keeps some of its secrets beneath the surface, and the sky holds its quiet lights far beyond reach, so too do we carry questions within ourselves that may never find clear explanations. And that is perfectly all right. The softness of mystery gives us room to breathe, to reflect, and to drift peacefully through our own thoughts without expectation or pressure. As the echoes of ancient legends and forgotten truths fade into the night, they leave behind a sense of timeless connection. We have walked through ruins where the earth remembers, stood beneath skies where the stars whisper, and listened to stories shaped by generations of wonder. These experiences do not fade when the story ends. They linger gently, settling into the mind like a warm, quiet glow. They remind us that curiosity can coexist with peace, that the imagination can be active even as the body relaxes and prepares for rest. In this final moment, the world grows softer. The mysteries that once seemed vast now feel tender and familiar, like distant companions watching over the night. As you breathe slowly, sinking deeper into stillness, allow these stories to continue drifting through your thoughts, loose, gentle, unhurried. There is no need to hold on to any detail. Let the unknown wrap around you like a blanket of calm twilight. And so, with the soft hum of the universe surrounding us, we rest beside the unanswered. The mysteries remain, timeless and serene, waiting not to be solved, but simply to be heard by those who wander gently through the quiet hours of the night.